Hey there, I want to take a few minutes today to talk about the deep compost mulch system. So, the deep compost mulch system. Let's get into it today. I want to talk about what it is and why you might want to use it. We'll talk about the pros and cons. We'll talk about some frequently asked questions that I get all the time about it, and then maybe how you can incorporate it in your farm or garden. So first of all, what is the deep compost mulch system? Well, it's kind of a term that's been defined in the last few years, and I think people have been doing this for a long time, but now it's got an idea that we can all understand and talk about and share experiences with. Now, most people kind of understand the point of a mulch. A mulch could be anything from wood chips to leaves to plastic, anything that covers the surface to minimize weed growth, protect the soil, maintain moisture, all that kind of stuff. That's what a mulch does. And so what we're doing here is we're just putting down a lot of compost. So generally for me, I'd start beds with 4 to 5 inches of compost. And what happens then is that the compost is so thick that it actually creates a mulch on the soil surface. So the compost acts as a mulch and you grow in that medium. So that's essentially what it is. But why do you want to do this? Well, first of all, you want to think about, in terms of no-till, the 4 major principles to create living soil. You want to keep the ground covered, you want to keep the ground planted, you want to disturb it as little as possible, and you want to increase diversity as much as possible. So with that in mind and creating healthy living soil, the deep compost mulch system is a great way to do that. So now that we kind of know what it is, right? A big layer of compost and you grow in that. That's the deep compost mulch system in a nutshell. I want to go through all those things, and let's first start talking about with the pros. No system is perfect, but let's talk about the pros. One of the biggest things I think is weed control, because if you prep your ground, we'll talk about that later, and put down the deep compost mulch system, you basically are taking care of the weeds for the most part. And what that does is it allows you to focus more on other things, which is obviously important. Nobody likes weeding, but spending the time up front to build your beds this way will be a huge time saving later on, because you'll be spending a lot less time weeding. The other thing is, if you're working with really poor soil, let's say you have really heavy clay soil like I do here, you can get started super quickly. And it is a lot of labor, and that is a con we'll talk about in a second. But you can just lay down compost and get started, and that is unbelievable. You can also do this at any time of the year, which is great. So if you want to start beds in the spring, in the summer, you could do it in the middle of the heat if you wanted to. You could do them in the fall and be ready to plant in the spring. You have a lot of optionality by building deep compost mulch system beds. A lot of people are struggling with their soil conditions in many different ways. One could be compaction, in which case if you loosen your soil and then build a deep compost system on top, you have fluffy soil to plant in, which is awesome. Also, if you are trying to convert from a tillage farm to a no-tillage farm, this is another great way to do that, because as you guys know, when you till, you bring all the weed seeds up to the surface, and shortly after tilling and planting, you got a flush of weeds that you have to deal with for the rest of the season. So by doing this, you can, start building fresh beds essentially and start that conversion from tillage to no-till. Another huge benefit of this system is it's a huge infusion of organic matter into your soil. I don't know anyone who starts with perfect soil when you start a farm. Places have very little topsoil, or you have a heavy clay or heavy sandy soil, whatever the issue is that you have. If you put down a whole bunch of compost, that's a huge infusion of organic matter into your soil, which is fantastic. Another thing, which is I've talked about before in other videos, another big pro is it looks fantastic. And don't discredit how your farm looks for a few reasons. One is it's great for marketing, and secondly, it also makes it really pleasurable to work there. If the farm looks tidy and looks clean, it makes you excited and happy to work there. Now, both my farm here, my previous version of my farm, which I farmed for 2 years, you can see here how nice it looks. It just looks great, especially with the wood chips in the walkway. And then at Raleigh City Farm, we did the same sort of idea, and you can see how well this turned out. It just looks awesome. It looks very clean, very tidy. And, it's, as I said, it's great for marketing and for people who are visiting your farm. And also now here at my farm, you guys know I've just been starting to build this out, and yeah, it looks great. And we're just getting started here, but it's a great start, and it's a really nice way to kickstart the the building of your farm and put it in a really good place to be successful moving forwards. As you can see, there's a lot of pros with the deep compost mulch system. So let's talk about some of the cons, because I said no system is perfect and you have to figure out if this is the right thing for you. Now, one of the things that can be the real issue with this system is the availability of good compost. And I know a lot of you guys out there have trouble getting good compost, and sometimes I've had trouble too, and it's not available everywhere. So if that's a case where you can't get a lot of compost that's decent, this may not be the right situation for you. Maybe it's something that you work towards and you make your own compost over time. You bring in some inputs to do that. There are a lot of ways around this if this is something you're interested in. But I can get decent compost for the most part. And I did have some issues last year where I got some compost that wasn't finished and it didn't work and I couldn't grow anything in it. So you got to be careful with your source, and the best thing you can do is ask around to the other farmers in the area and see where they're getting compost from and see what their experiences are. I've also heard horror stories, including some friends of mine that had some compost that had residual herbicide in it and basically took most of their farm out of commission for like a year. So again, the compost sourcing can definitely be an issue. Besides that, I think the cost can sometimes be an issue for people, but I have said this many times that I don't think the cost is really an issue unless your compost is crazy expensive, because when you're spending a little bit of money to build your beds, those are permanent beds. And so that organic matter, that fertility is there. And even after you crop out your first crop in that bed, you'll pay for it pretty quickly. So to me, when I think about the cost of paying for compost to build the deep compost system, it's a one-time cost up front. It's kind of like a startup cost for your farm. So to me, not a big issue. Another thing is labor. Now, building these beds can be very labor intensive. And unless you have some employees or you have a bunch of really nice friends or something like that to come and help you, if you're doing this by hand, it can be very labor intensive. And you have to realize that. And you get a bunch of people together, it can happen very quickly. We built blocks of 8 beds at Raleigh City Farm in just a few hours when there was like 10 of us. So if you have everything ready and you have people, it can go pretty quickly. One big con to this system is right after you build your beds, before the plant roots really get into the ground and create a cohesive bed, is erosion. This has been a huge problem for me. At my farm here, you can see we got one big rainstorm right after I built beds and before everything got planted, and it washed out a lot of soil. Also had this problem at Raleigh City Farm. We had a few beds, and that was a lot flatter there, but we had a few beds that definitely got washed out right after we built them with our big heavy rains. I'm in North Carolina and we get very intense storms and thunderstorms. We could get a couple inches in afternoon or an evening or overnight, and it'll just wash stuff away. So with that in mind, I think you have to be careful with it. And I think that one of the best things you can do is obviously put things in a tunnel, and that's what I'm doing now. And so I have like no stress with my new beds and erosion because they're all built inside of a tunnel. And this is a perfect opportunity to talk about today's show sponsor, which is Farmer's Friend. Farmer's Friend makes incredible tunnels and tools and all sorts of things to help small scale growers everywhere. And not only are they innovative, but they're affordable and accessible. I have 2 Farmer's Friend tunnels here, and so far they've been fantastic. And I think they're just a great way to protect your soil and grow year-round in most situations. But one of the biggest things I find about growing in a tunnel is that things just grow better. They grow quicker, they grow stronger, there's less stress on the plants, and frankly, they're a great fit for the deep compost mulch system. So if you're interested in Farmer's Friend, there's a link down below for you to check out their products. I highly recommend you go and check out what they have, and want to thank them for sponsoring this channel. So now with the pros and cons out of the way, let's talk about how you might incorporate this into your garden or your farm. And the best thing about this is the scale doesn't matter. You could do this small or large, and we'll talk about some of the large scale stuff too, because this is scalable for sure. I know farms doing this on a lot more acreage. Right now we're almost done building out beds, and what I do to build these beds is sort of a simple lasagna bed. But before you even get to that, I think one thing you have to keep in mind, especially with a lot of no-till practices, is that you want to get rid of the weeds as best as possible before you even build beds, because then you don't have to deal with them anymore. You get rid of the weeds, and then you build your lasagna beds, your deep compost mulch system, and you pretty much have them taken care of for the most part. Of course, if you have really aggressive perennial weeds, you might have to take more drastic measures to get rid of them. But the best thing you can probably do is just tarp the ground for as long as possible. Get a silage tarp. Farmer's Friend sells them, and and smother out the weeds. And you have to give it time. And if you have Bermuda grass or perennial weeds, it might take longer. And you guys got to remember that it's a lot faster to kill the stuff in the summer with the heat and you know, the sunshine and stuff, heating up the ground and making that happen faster. I use chickens here. I've done that before too. Animals can help as well. But make sure you get rid of the weeds and then build your lasagna beds. Now, the idea here is that you put down some sort of carbon layer. And so I use cardboard. We've been using that here and also at Raleigh City Farm because, you know, we can get it pretty easily and it's free, which is great. You can also use straw, which is another common one. And you can also use hay. The problem with hay or other grasses, they're great because they have a lot of nutrients in them, but also you could have seeds in there. And so you want to be careful about that. There's no seeds in the cardboard, and straw generally is, most of the time, is pretty weed free. So that's what we do is I've made so many videos about this, but you put down a carbon layer and then a bunch of compost and you're good to go. Now, this is very labor intensive, as I said before, and if you are scaling this up and you have a front end loader, that's probably the best thing to do. Here's a clip of Jared Smith of Jared's Real Food. We did a workshop with him out in California just about a year ago now, just before COVID. And you can come in from the side and just lay down compost. You can see he's using straw here because he has access to a lot of straw. And it's super quick. And you can do long beds very quickly from coming in from the side if you have a front end loader. And I know other farms that have done it this way too. So if you're building beds on a much larger scale and you have access to that, it'll make it super quick. But essentially, that's how you do this and you're ready to plant. Some of the questions now, let's get into those. People ask me all the time, can you plant right away? Absolutely. The big thing is you want to wet down the carbon layer really, really well so that it breaks down quickly. And if you're using cardboard, don't use too thick of a layer because it won't break down as quickly. And then you might have issues where water can't penetrate through or roots can't penetrate through. I've started all sorts of plants in fresh beds and they've worked pretty well. I've even done carrots. People ask me all the time. Again, if you wet down that carbon layer, the carrots should be fine. And then obviously one thing you should always try to do is try to loosen the soil ahead of time. So I like to broad fork before I build beds on here. If you're planting greens and stuff like that, that's probably the best thing you could do on the first round is just get some plant roots going, get the soil biology active again with living plants, and then you could sort of go after maybe some more root crops or maybe some bigger plants. So a lot of people are asking me about things like tomatoes or peppers or things that you want to get down in there. And I've done that too, where I just punched a hole through the cardboard and planted them a little deeper, and that works pretty well too. So there's lots of options out there, guys. But again, probably one of the best things you could do is planting something shallow like greens, or maybe do a cover crop first, terminate that, and then do your plants after that. So there's a lot of different options. Now, another question I get all the time is what time of year should I do this? And pretty much any time is fine. You can also build beds. Another cool way is you could build them in the fall, build the whole thing, cover it with a tarp, and then just be ready to plant in the spring. That works really well too, especially if you're worried, like maybe you're using hay and there's some seeds in there or something. By doing that and occultating it, you'll be in really good shape too. I really like wood chips in the walkways. I've talked about this so many times, but again, this is how I've been building beds the last. Now this is my 4th season, and I've been really, really happy with it. If you want to see some more content about how I've built beds, I've done a lot of videos, and especially one more recently on this farm. I'll put a link down below for that. Also a video I did about no-till and how I feel about that now, and the deep compost mulch system. There's some more thoughts in there. I'll leave those videos for you to check out down below. But remember, this isn't for everybody. It works really, really well for me. I've really been enjoying it, and I think I'm going to continue doing it this way. There's a lot of pros and a few cons. So with that in mind, guys, I just want to give you some ideas about the deep compost mulch system as maybe you're considering changing gears on your farm, switching strategies, or maybe you're just starting building some beds in your backyard. This is a great way to do this, and it's super simple, and it really promotes that living soil long term. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and we'll see you in the next one.